unaware that he had just spat on the very woman who controlled everything he and his proud family depended on. Ethan Walker leaned back at the long mahogany table with the arrogance of a man certain of his dominance. Around him, laughter rang bright and ugly, his fiancée Vanessa's sharp giggle mixing with the false mirth of his parents. The chandelier above threw silver light over crystal glasses, polished forks, and faces that hid cruelty behind polite smiles. At the far end sat Emma. Her wheelchair was tucked neatly beneath the table. Her posture was straight, careful, composed. The glow from the chandelier softened her face, but could not veil the frost behind her calm eyes. She didn't speak until Vanessa tilted her wineglass and smirked. "Maybe if you weren't so useless," Vanessa drawled, "Ethan wouldn't have left you." Laughter erupted, high-pitched, metallic bursts of judgment. Ethan's mother hid her smile behind her napkin. His father stared at his plate, but Ethan himself grinned openly. That proud, familiar curve of disdain that had once charmed her, and now only disgusted her. Emma's voice was quiet, even, carrying easily through the chatter. "Be careful what you call useless, Vanessa. Some things have more value than you'll ever be able to measure." Ethan slammed his palm against the table. The silverware jumped. "Value?" he barked. "You've lived off my family for years, Emma. Don't start pretending you matter." Then came the moment that froze every sound in the room. He leaned forward, his face hard, and spat near her plate. The spittle glimmered briefly under chandelier light before sinking into the linen. "You disgust me," he said. The laughter died. Even Vanessa's smirk faltered. His mother looked down. His father reached for his water, pretending sudden thirst. Emma did not cry. She didn't even blink. She studied him, her gaze steady, detached, as though memorizing his features for the record. Beneath that stillness was something none of them could name. An awareness, a quiet certainty that felt bigger than pain. Her eyes dropped to the diamond ring still gracing her hand. She had bought it herself back when he couldn't afford one. Her mind flickered to nights of double shifts, bills folded into envelopes. The time she sold her mother's bracelet so he could start his first business. Back then, he'd called her his miracle. Now she was his disgrace. "Excuse me," she said softly, wheeling back from the table. "I think I've had enough of charity dinners." Vanessa's laugh sliced through the awkward hush. "Run along, darling. Don't scratch the floors." The cruelty rippled once more into the air as Emma turned. The laughter followed her down the corridor, a pack of hyenas feeding on pride. Outside, night wrapped around her like a balm. The cool air stung her cheeks. Her hands trembled only when she reached to adjust her shawl. The pain wasn't from their insults. She was long past that. It was the irony that burned. None of them had the faintest idea whose signature was printed in gold across their paychecks. Coleman Industries. Her family's legacy. Her company. The same empire Ethan's parents had served as senior accountants for 3 decades. The same firm her husband mocked her for not understanding. She brushed away a tear that wasn't sorrow. A slow smile curved her lips. "You really don't know, do you?" she whispered to the dark. When she returned home, she rolled through the grand foyer to the study where her father's portrait hung. His familiar eyes, steady, kind, faintly severe, seemed to meet hers across the years. "I kept your promise, Dad," she murmured. "I married for love." But love turned into pity, and pity turned into poison. Memory flooded in, the crash, the rain slick on asphalt, the metallic taste of blood. Ethan's voice shouting her name. The sterile smell of the hospital when she awoke to find not comfort, but distance in his eyes. His touch gone cold. And then the note he'd left months later. No goodbye, only, "I can't live like this anymore." She thought she'd been broken for good, but pity had its limits and hers was spent. That night, she picked up the phone and called a number she hadn't dialed in years. "Mark Dillard," came the familiar voice, graveled with time and loyalty. "Mark, it's Emma." There was a pause, then surprise. "Emma Coleman. It's been a long time." "I'm ready," she said softly. "It's time to rewrite the board at Coleman Industries." A long exhale on the other end. "You're sure? Once I file this, there's no reversal." Her gaze gathered the weight of every humiliation she'd endured. "I don't want to go back." Outside, thunder rolled low and steady. Her reflection in the glass was a stranger. Stronger, colder, reborn. For the first time since the accident, she didn't feel broken. She felt formidable. Morning came gold and clear through the tall windows of the study. Classical music murmured in the background as Emma arranged the paperwork across her desk. Each page was a quiet revelation of control. Company dockets, ownership documents, statements, shares. All proof of where real power lived. Ethan believed she was merely a wife limping through the ruins of divorce, a woman defined by her wheelchair. He had never understood that she was the majority shareholder of the billion-dollar company that paid his family's salaries and carried their precious surname through polite society. She pressed a button on the intercom. "Lydia, send in Mr. Dillard." Mark entered moments later, briefcase in hand, salt and pepper hair gleaming in the morning light. "Emma," he greeted, voice low and steady. "The restructuring documents are prepared. Once you sign, you'll hold direct authority over all executive and employment decisions." Her lips tightened. "Perfect." Mark hesitated, studying her. "Are you absolutely certain you want to go through with this?" Emma looked up, eyes calm but burning with purpose. "They spat on me, Mark, in front of a room full of people. Ethan mocked me for existing. He has no idea that every dollar they live on comes from me." He opened the folder silently. "Then let's begin." The pen glided smoothly across each page. With every signature, the distance between who she had been and who she was becoming stretched wider. The last line she signed sealed it completely, a transformation inked in black and final. Mark slid the documents back into the case. "I'll schedule the board meeting for Friday," he said. "Ethan and his parents will attend?" "Oh, they'll be there," Emma replied with a small, unreadable smile. "They just won't know why." That afternoon, the scent of magnolias drifted across the balcony as she rolled her chair into the sunlight. The garden below waved softly in the breeze, leaves whispering secrets of patience and revenge. She thought of the life she had once planned with Ethan, a house of laughter, children, and shared sunsets. 5 years of forever had not survived his pride. Her phone buzzed beside her. A message from her assistant, Lydia. "Mrs. Coleman," Mr. Ethan called. "He wants to discuss a business proposal with you personally." Emma stared at the screen, a spark of irony lighting her eyes. Ethan had no idea who Mrs. Coleman truly was. "Set the meeting," she typed back. "Tomorrow morning. My office." The following day, Ethan entered the lobby of Coleman Industries as though walking into a conquest. Vanessa clung to his arm, her perfume thick with confidence. Every employee who greeted them did so with the pleasant deference reserved for outsiders, though silent amusement flickered behind their eyes. Ethan strutted through the corridors to the top floor, the one level he'd never been allowed to access. When the doors opened, there she was. Emma sat behind the wide mahogany desk, sunlight pouring over her like quiet armor. Ethan froze mid-step. Emma?" Vanessa blinked, voice trembling. "Wait, you're the executive we're meeting?" "Good morning, Ethan." "Vanessa," Emma said evenly, gesturing to the chairs before her. "Please sit." Ethan's confusion twisted to irritation. "What the hell is this?" "I'm here to see the CEO." "You are," she replied, almost gently. Vanessa's face drained of color. You're the CEO?" Emma folded her hands neatly. "Majority owner and chairwoman, actually. Which means at this moment, you are sitting in my office." For an instant, the world went utterly still. Ethan's jaw clenched. His voice dropped to an incredulous whisper. "That's impossible." "You're crippled?" She finished for him, her smile unwavering. "Yes, I lost my legs, Ethan. Not my intelligence." Vanessa's hand slipped silently from his arm. "You brought a proposal, didn't you?" Emma's tone was almost kind. "Something about expanding your construction firm?" He forced a smirk. "Yes. Coleman Industries would benefit greatly from..." Declined. He blinked. "What?" "I don't do business with people who spit on me," she said, voice as calm as glass. Cutting. "You see, Ethan, last night wasn't humiliation. It was revelation. You showed me exactly who you are. Now it's my turn." Vanessa stood trembling. "Emma, please, you can't." "Oh, I can," Emma replied coldly. "Effective immediately, your parents, Ethan, are being relieved from their positions at this company. Severance pay will be processed by end of week." Ethan's face turned red. "You can't fire my parents. They've worked here their whole lives." Emma's eyes softened just slightly. "Yes, and they deserved better than a son who humiliated the woman who signs their checks." Ethan stepped closer, voice shaking with fury. "You think this makes you powerful? You'll regret this." Emma leaned forward, her expression unreadable. "I already did for years, but not anymore." Security entered at her quiet nod. Vanessa gasped as they escorted the couple out. Ethan turned one last time, eyes blazing with wounded pride. "This isn't over," he hissed. Emma's voice followed him out like silk over steel. "Oh, Ethan, it hasn't even started." When the door closed, Emma exhaled slowly, her pulse racing, her hands trembled. Not from weakness, but from release. For the first time, she wasn't the woman Ethan abandoned. She was the woman he'd never see coming, and this was only the beginning. 2 weeks had passed since that fateful meeting, and word of Ethan's outburst at Coleman Industries spread like wildfire across the city's business circles. What had once been whispered admiration for his ambitious new firm turned into rumors laced with contempt. Emma hadn't even needed to say much. She let the truth circulate on its own. All she did was release a single internal memo through Coleman's PR department, effective immediately. The Coleman Industries board has terminated all partnerships with Ethan Parker Construction due to violations of ethical conduct and professional integrity. The memo didn't mention the dinner incident or his betrayal. It didn't need to. In a city built on reputation, silence with a hint of scandal was louder than proof. Ethan's phone buzzed nonstop with angry investors and contractors pulling out of deals. The mansion he'd once paraded Vanessa through started to feel like a trap. "Emma's behind this," Ethan shouted, slamming his phone onto the marble counter. "She's poisoning my reputation," Vanessa flinched. "Ethan, maybe if you just apologize?" "Apologize?" he barked, rounding on her. "To her after everything she's done. She owns half this city now," Vanessa whispered. "You said she was weak. You said she'd never fight back." Ethan's jaw tightened. "She's bluffing." But he didn't believe his own words anymore. Across town, Emma sat in her home office, eyes fixed on her laptop screen as she watched a live financial report. Ethan's company stock had plummeted 20% in one day. Lydia, her assistant, entered with 2 cups of tea. "You've done it. He's collapsing faster than we thought." Emma didn't smile. "No," she said quietly. "Not yet." Her voice carried no hatred, only precision. Like a surgeon cutting through rot, her father's words echoed in her memory. "Power doesn't scream, Emma. It whispers, and the wise listen." She was done whispering. That evening, she opened a folder marked Vanessa Legal Affairs. Inside were documents detailing how Vanessa had falsified qualifications to gain her previous job at a rival firm. A secret Ethan didn't know. Emma had discovered it years ago, but buried it back when she believed love mattered more than revenge. Now it was leverage. She drafted an anonymous tip to the firm's HR department, attaching scanned proof. Within 48 hours, Vanessa's name was trending online. Vanessa Moore fired over credential fraud scandal. By Friday, paparazzi had swarmed their home. Ethan's business partners refused to take his calls. Clients withdrew contracts. The empire he'd built on arrogance was rotting beneath him. But still, Emma wasn't satisfied. Revenge wasn't about destruction. It was about listen. That weekend, she hosted a charity gala under Coleman Industries' name. The city's elite attended, the same people who once mocked her forbing the crippled wife. This time she arrived in an elegant silver gown, her wheelchair customized with chrome edges and soft white leather. Cameras flashed. The crowd fell silent as she entered. "Is that her?" someone whispered. "She looks incredible." "Did you hear what she did to Ethan?" Emma smiled graciously, nodding as journalists rushed in. "Mrs. Coleman, is it true you're the sole owner of Coleman Industries now?" "Yes," she replied calmly. "I took over after certain unethical associations were discovered. It was the perfect bait." An hour later, Ethan arrived uninvited, disheveled and furious. Security tried to stop him, but Emma raised her hand. "Let him in." He marched across the ballroom, voice echoing. "You think humiliating me makes you better, Emma? You think money fixes your broken legs?" Gasps rippled through the crowd. Cameras rolled. Emma's smile didn't fade. "No, Ethan," she said softly, her voice steady. "Money doesn't fix broken legs, but it does reveal who will stand by you when you can't stand yourself." The room went still. Reporters captured every word. Ethan's expression faltered, rage bleeding into regret. "You can't do this here." "I'm not doing anything," she interrupted. "You're doing it yourself." She gestured lightly to the cameras. The crowd. The phones recording. Every lie he'd told. Every insult he'd thrown. Now immortalized for the world to see. Vanessa stood at the doorway, mascara streaking down her face. "Ethan, please stop." But he couldn't. Pride had eaten what little humility he had left. "You'll regret this, Emma." She tilted her head. "You said that before." "I'm still waiting." He stormed out, pushing past reporters. Flashbulbs followed him into the night. Emma exhaled slowly. Her hands shook, but not from fear, from release. Firmament she had once begged for. His acknowledgement, his apology, no longer mattered. She didn't want his remorse. She wanted peace. As the gala ended, Cheryl toward the grand window overlooking the city. Light shimmered across the skyline. The empire her father built. The empire she now commanded. Mark approached quietly. "He's ruined. His company's filing for bankruptcy next week. Are you satisfied?" Emma's eyes glistened. "Not yet. He still has something left. His pride. I'll take that last." Mark hesitated. "And then what?" She looked out the window, voice faint. "Then maybe I'll forgive him." Outside, thunder rolled again, just as it had the night she began her revenge. Only this time, the storm didn't frighten her. It answered her. Her vengeance wasn't over. It was evolving. Rain fell that night. A soft drizzle at first, then heavier, as if the sky itself wanted to wash away the sins that had soaked the city. Inside her glass-walled penthouse, Emma sat by the fire, the glow reflecting off the frame photo of her and Ethan from better days. His smile looked innocent then, full of dreams, but she knew now it had been built on lies and ambition. Her phone buzzed. Lydia's calm voice came through. "Mrs. Coleman, the transfer is complete. Ethan and Vanessa have officially lost the last of their company assets. The media is already running the story." Emma nodded slowly. "And the house foreclosure notice was served this afternoon. They have 30 days to vacate." For a long moment, Emma said nothing. She could almost see it. Ethan pacing the empty mansion, Vanessa sobbing in the corner, both stripped of their wealth and reputation. But this wasn't about material loss. Her revenge had been meticulous, but it was about something deeper. Ethan had left her when she was broken. Now she had broken everything he thought defined him. Still, a part of her heart trembled. Revenge, no matter how justified, left a hollow space behind. "Mrs. Coleman," Lydia said gently, "should I proceed with the final notice?" Emma's eyes hardened again. "Yes, send it tonight." Across town, Ethan sat in the dim living room of the house that used to be his sanctuary. The power had been cut off hours ago due to unpaid bills. Candlelight flickered across his face, once confident, now worn with desperation. Vanessa sat opposite him, mascara smudged. Her once luxurious gown crumpled from days of wear. "This is your fault," Ethan muttered. "My fault?" Vanessa shot back, her voice sharp with hysteria. "You're the one who thought you could humiliate a woman who's half the damn city. You told me she was weak. I didn't know," Ethan shouted, slamming his fist on the table. "She hid it from me." Vanessa laughed bitterly. "Maybe she didn't hide it. Maybe you just never bothered to see her." The silence that followed was heavy, cruel. Ethan sank into the couch, his hands covering his face. Memories of Emma flooded in. Her quiet laughter, the way she believed in him when no one else did. The night she stayed awake helping him draft proposals for his first contracts. He had spat on the very person who made him. A knock sounded at the door. Ethan froze. Vanessa hesitated, then opened it, revealing a delivery man holding a white envelope. "From Coleman Industries," he said curtly before leaving. Ethan tore it open. Inside was a letter embossed with the company's gold seal. His eyes scanned the lines, his hands trembling. "Dear Mr. Parker, your personal and corporate accounts have been reviewed and found to contain unpaid debts owed to Coleman Industries and affiliated subsidiaries. Effective immediately, all remaining assets and intellectual properties under your name are being repossessed as collateral under Clause 14 of your contract. E. Coleman." At the bottom was a handwritten note. "Ethan, you taught me that weakness deserves no mercy. I'm only returning the lesson." The paper slipped from his hand. He sank to the floor, eyes wet with something between regret and disbelief. "She's destroyed me," he whispered. Vanessa didn't reply. She simply picked up her purse and walked toward the door. "Where are you going?" Ethan demanded. "To survive," she said coldly. "Something you never taught me to do." The door slammed behind her, leaving him alone with his ghosts. The next morning, the city awoke to headlines that read, "Ethan Parker declared bankrupt. Ex-wife and CEO Emma Coleman gains full control of his holdings." The internet buzzed with commentary. Some called it karma, others called it poetic justice. But those who knew Emma personally said only one thing. She finally found her peace. Later that day, Emma attended a board meeting. As the directors applauded her for strategic consolidation, she smiled politely. But her mind was elsewhere. When the meeting ended, she asked everyone to leave except Mark. He watched her quietly as she gazed out the window. "It's done," he said softly. "You've avenged everything." Emma turned to him, eyes distant. "Have I? Or have I just built another cage? This time one of victory instead of pity?" Mark hesitated. "You still loved him once. It's normal to feel conflicted." She looked at the reflection of her wheelchair in the glass. "He broke me, Mark. But I'm not angry at him anymore. I'm angry that I let his cruelty define me for so long." "Then maybe forgiveness is your final revenge," he said gently. She smiled faintly. "Maybe." That evening she drove, or rather had Lydia drive her, to the place where everything began. The small cafe where she and Ethan had met 10 years earlier. The neon light still flickered, the smell of coffee still warm. She ordered his favorite drink, black coffee with 2 sugars, and left it on the table across from her. Then she whispered, Goodbye, Ethan. Outside, the rain had stopped. The city lights shimmered on the wet pavement like diamonds. The next morning, the news reported that Ethan Parker had been found unconscious in his foreclosed home, clutching an old photograph, their wedding picture. Has survived, but his mind was shattered, ashel of the man he once was. Emma read the report in silence, then closed the laptop. Mark entered quietly. Do you want me to release a statement? She shook her head. No, let him be. Let Excellence finish what revenge began. Mark nodded and left. Emma wheeled herself to the balcony, watching the sunrise paint gold across the skyline. For the first time, the world felt quiet, not empty, just still. Her revenge hadn't healed her, but it had freed her. She whispered to herself, You spat on me, Ethan, but I rose from the ground. You dirtied. And as the morning light touched her face, the powerful woman who had once been a broken wife smiled. Not with triumph, but with peace. 5 years later, autumn swept through the city with the soft hush of falling leaves. The skyline had changed. New towers gleamed where old ones once stood. And among them, at the heart of downtown, the tallest bore the name Coleman Foundation for Recovery and Resilience. Emma's foundation had become one of the most respected charitable institutions in the country, dedicated to helping accident survivors, widows, and abandoned women rebuild their lives. Her story had inspired millions, though very few knew the full truth behind it. Inside her office, now filled with light and warmth instead of fire and vengeance, Emma looked out over the city she once ruled with quiet fury. The wheelchair gleamed softly beside her polished oak desk. She didn't use it as often anymore. Physical therapy had restored some of her strength, and she could now walk short distances with braces. Lydia entered with her usual calm smile. The board meeting's ready, Mrs. Coleman, and there's someone here to see you. An old friend. Emma arched a brow. An old friend. The door opened, and Mark Dillard stepped in, holding Asmol envelope. His hair had gone grayer, but his eyes carried the same warmth. I found this in the company archives, he said, handing it to her. Emma took the envelope carefully. Inside was an old handwritten letter sealed and dated years ago from Ethan. Her breath caught as she unfolded it. Emma, if you ever read this, it means I've already failed at being the man you believed I could be. I wanted to love you forever, but I was weak. When you were hurt, I saw my reflection in your pain, and I couldn't bear it. Instead of standing by you, I ran. Not because you were broken, but because I was. You didn't deserve the way I left. You didn't deserve any of it. If there's any justice, I hope you find peace, even if I'm not part of it, Ethan. Emma sat in silence, her fingers trembling slightly. For a long time, she said nothing. Then very softly, she whispered, You were right, Ethan. I did find peace, but only when I stopped needing justice to give it tone. She folded the letter carefully and placed it back into the envelope. Should I archive it? Mark asked. No, she said, smiling faintly. Burn it. Let it end where it should have. He nodded, understanding. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Emma stood on her balcony with a cane in hand. The wind played with her hair as she watched the city glow. The empire she had once conquered now humming beneath her feet like a living memory. For years, revenge had been her heartbeat, but now forgiveness was her peace. She whispered to the fading sky, Thank you for teaching me that even broken wings can still fly. And as night fell, the lights of the Coleman Foundation shone brighter than ever, a symbol not of vengeance but of rebirth.